Alright, so let's finish off Prep Test 34, Game 1. Again, it's from June 2001. By going over questions 6 and 7 real quick. Okay, this should be a shorter video. If Jill stocks aisle 3, which one of the following cannot be true? Let me take off. I have the whole work from the previous video still here. Okay. So now we can go to the question. If Jill stocks aisle 3, which one of the following cannot be true? Alright, so let's figure out where can Jill stock aisle 3? Well, we know it can't happen in the first template, right? Because M is in aisle 3. So it can happen in the second template because Jill can be here. And it can happen in the third template because the second Jill can be there. Okay? Now, let's just fill in the rest of the template. Especially on the last one, it's easy because this is just going to be L. And then that template is done. Okay? And on this side, let's see, we said we had one L and two J's not shown originally, but we just put one J down. So now we have one L and one J that are not being shown. Okay, so this could be either the L or J, and then the other one is going to go on the back side. So there's still a lot of room to maneuver in terms of where these extra couple of variables that are left over are going to go in the second template. So then we would just go to the questions, answer choices, sorry. So we want to figure out which one cannot be true. So 4 of the answer choices are going to be possible, could be true, and one of them is going to be impossible, and that's the one we want. All right, so Jill stocks aisle 9. Is that possible? Well, it's not possible in the second template, but as we just pointed out, in this, it's not possible in the third template, okay, down here. But as we just pointed out, in the second template up here, there's still a lot of room to maneuver. And although we've put one of the J's in 3, there's no reason we can't put the other J, which would be the second J, in 9, and then we put O in 7 and L in 8 and the other L in 1, and that would work out just fine. So A is possible, therefore it's not our answer. What about B? Kurt stocks aisle 6. So again, we're only looking at the second and third templates. And in the second template, Kurt cannot stock aisle 6. But in the third template, Kurt can stock aisle 6. In fact, in the second template, Kurt must stock aisle 6. So that definitely is possible and therefore not our answer. What about answer choice C? Larissa stocks aisle 4. Well, we look at the third template and we see, no, actually Larissa in the third template, if Jill is going to go in 3, then Larissa has to go in 4. So that is not the answer because that's certainly possible. So we look at D, Manny stocks aisle 4, and that has to happen in the second template. So we've gotten rid of A, B, C, and D pretty quickly, and hopefully E is, in fact, impossible, and it says Olga stocks aisle 6. So we look at the two templates. In one of them, M is stocking aisle 6 in the second template. In the third template, it's Kurt that's stocking aisle 6. So Olga can definitely not stock aisle 6. So that is our answer. So answer choice E is right here. Okay? Let's take this work off the board and do the last question. So this question is one of the kinds of questions that people find really annoying because they completely change the rules on you. They say instead of, all this time we've been working on a particular assumption and now they're going to get rid of that assumption and they're going to change it. So the setup that you do, it doesn't always become completely useless, but you need to think about what would be preserved in your setup and what needs to be adjusted based upon the change that they've made. Okay? So the change they're making here is they're saying that they're getting rid of the rule that Larissa stocks 1 or 9 but not both. And they're actually insisting now that we put Larissa in 1 and in 9, okay? Because in their words, they say, suppose that rather than just 1, Larissa stocks both end aisles, all other conditions remaining in effect, okay? Which one of the following cannot be true? So let's just do that. And I just create a space down here. Since they've completely changed the rules, then I'm not going to try to use the templates necessarily. I'm just going to go ahead and put Larissa in 1 and 9. I'm going to put K in 2. So that one good thing about this question is that they gave us the exact placement of Larissa. So that makes our life a little bit easier. And K's in 2, and now we have the MKM block. Let's look over here for a second, okay? Under the analysis. We have the MKM block, and then we have the O, and then, L2, which is going to be a 9, should come after the O, which it's going to have to do since it's a 9. So we have the MKM block plus the O plus two J's left because both L's are placed. Okay, so we have the MKM block plus two J's. And what we need to do, it looks like, is make sure that those two J's are not consecutive. Because, yeah, that seems to be the main thing that we need to make sure of. We can still place the MKM block in a few different places. We just need to make sure that the J's are not consecutive. All right, so let's look at the answer choices and figure out which one of these creates a problem. Because they want cannot be true. So 4 of the answer choices are going to be possible. Those are the wrong answers. 1 of them, impossible. That's what we want. All right, so let's see. A says Jill stocks aisle 3. So could that be true? We could put Jill in aisle 3, and then we put MKM in 4, 5, 6, and then we put the O and the J, the remaining J, in 7 or 8, and that works out just fine. So that is possible. It's not our answer. B says Olga stocks aisle 6. Okay, now this looks more promising. And you might say, well, how do you know that? And the reason we know that is because what we said originally was that we need to keep the two J's separate. If we put O in 6, that forces MKM into 3, 4, 5. It leaves only 7 and 8 open, and we still have to place the two J's, which means they're going to have to be consecutive, right? So by placing the O in such a way that the MKM block is forced in front of the O, and the two J's are then forced to be consecutive, they create a situation that we're not a situation in which we're not able to come up with a valid solution. Therefore, this answer is the right answer because it cannot be true that Olga's in 6. All right. If you understand that, then and you understand why C, D, and E are not correct. You can stop the video now. But in case anyone has questions, I'll look at C, D, and E and show why they in fact can be true. The answer, to be clear, is B. Okay. C says Olga stocks the only aisle between the two aisles that Jill stocks. So Olga stocks the only aisle between the two aisles that Jill stocks. So what they're suggesting is that we go J, O, J in a block. Okay, so can we do that? And the answer is yeah. That actually works out just fine. And then the other block would be MKM, and together these two blocks, which each have 3 members, would take up the 6 spaces between 3 through 8. Inclusive. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And actually the JOJ would have to go in 6, 7, and 8 because the O has to come after the MKM block. So the MKM can go in 3, 4, 5, and then the JOJ goes in 6, 7, and 8. That works just fine. So that was answer choice C. Let's look at D and E. D says Kurt stocks only even-numbered aisles. Could that be true, that Kurt stocks only even-numbered aisles? Yeah, actually in the example we just looked at, where we put MKM in 3, 4, 5, that would put Kurt in 2 and 4, and those are even-numbered aisles. And then we could go JOJ on 6, 7, 8 with the example that we just used to prove that C was okay. We can use the same exact example to prove that D is okay. And finally, we have E, which is one of Larissa's aisles is immediately next to Olga's. One of Larissa's aisles is immediately next to Olga's. Okay, it's a little more interesting because we can't put the first aisle, which Larissa's going to be in, can't be next to Olga because Kurt is in aisle 2, right? So that Kurt is the only one who's next to that first Larissa aisle. So that means we would have to put O here, okay? And then we just need to make sure that we keep the J separate. So how could we do that? We need to put the block in the middle, 4, 5, 6. Because if we put the block on one side, 5, 6, 7, or 3, 4, 5, then the J's would be forced to be next to each other. But if we put M in 4, K in 5, M in 6, then we can split the J's in 3, 1 in 3, and 1 in 7, and that would keep them separate from each other, and that would work out just fine. So again, the answer here is B, and hopefully you can see why A, C, D, and E are all possible. All right. One piece of advice on this game, and other games like this, where you basically have less variables than you have spaces, is to make sure that you're able to think clearly before you really get into the questions about what the possibilities for the distribution are. And when I say distribution, in this particular case, what I mean is how many times is each variable going to go. We didn't have to think very hard about it this time, and so that was a good thing. We did have to think a little bit harder about the templates or about how the MKM block can be placed, but at least we had the distribution out of the way. In some cases, it's not as easy, but no matter whether it's easy or difficult, you do need to think about it before you get to the questions whenever you have fewer variables than you have spaces. All right, on that note, this is the end of that video. This is the last video for this game, and this is the end of this video, so I will see you in the next video.